Welcome to episode 14 of Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Ben, you're back. Happy you're back.
I'm back again. I keep coming back, even though we keep having these dumb little things getting in the way. But you know what? By the end of this season, I will maybe actually be able to start doing it on a regular basis.
Here I am just worried that you're trying to hide from me after that Chiefs loss to the Eagles.
I would never, because that's a
No,
regular season game, and I'm happy to remind you that when it really counts, the Chiefs pull out a win. That's why we have Super Bowl rings from last year. You might remember that game.
I do all too well. Ben, welcome back. Happy to have you back. I miss you whenever you're not on here. So this week we're getting closer and closer to the playoffs. We're 12 weeks in, 2 more weeks until playoffs. Right now, we currently have Cameron and Mike up in the top 2. Ben and I, we're going to talk who we think is going to make the playoffs. We're going to talk who we think is going to be in the bottom 4, because that's its own fun of chaos. And then, of course, we're going to do some some matchup breakdowns of the week. And then we'll finish up with some NFL topics. So, but Ben, since you're back, my normal question, I always got to ask it, how are you currently feeling about your team?
I'm actually feeling pretty good about my team right now. Last week they came out pretty strong. Josh Allen had a monster game for me, so I was pretty thrilled with that. I got to hand it to Drew, so I felt pretty good about that. I will say that I was a little nervous about going in and playing Drew this past week, so I was pretty happy to see my team pull together. But what cracked me up the most was that most of you may notice I did a trade with Cameron where I gave up a tight end and I got Jordan Addison. I think you all know me well enough to know that that's really more of an investment towards the future, I think. I did play Addison, but obviously it's not a crazy it's not a great time in Minnesota, I think. So it really did kind of crack me up that if I would have played my normal either Nico Collins or Calvin Ridley, both those guys scored 19 points to Addison's 6.9. So if I would have just stuck with those guys that I had, I would have dropped at least 150, almost 160. No, it would have been 160. So my team really came out. I told little Josh at one point last week that not to brag, but I think I may actually have the best bench whenever I'm looking at it right now. My wide receivers, if they hit, they are monsters. You got Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, Nico Collins. When Calvin Ridley shows up, he's a monster. And I added Jordan Addison to that, who, could be a really dangerous weapon for Minnesota if they can figure out the quarterback situation. And then what cracks me up the most is I've got Cortland Sutton sitting there too. And he's, I think he's only had I think he's had 4 games this year where he didn't get double digits. So I think I can safely say for the first time in my life, I actually did well drafting receivers this year. It is always a weak point for me. I made a point to go after it this year, and I think it's really paying off. And I got to give some love to my boy Isaiah Pacheco. He came out and had a hell of a day. I was really, really happy with that.
Oh, yeah.
The Chiefs, I think, are really finally starting to trust him with a little bit more of the workload. And it may have had something to do with Jerick McKinnon being out that week too. Yep. But I'm really happy to see the Chiefs kind of getting back to the run game a little bit. I enjoy watching Pacheco run. It's just, if you're a Chiefs fan, you have always had a special spot for running backs. It's our thing. Until we got Mahomes anyway. But yeah, feeling pretty good. we're heading into week 13, and that means only 2 weeks left till playoffs. So, currently in fourth place, barring disaster, I think I can safely say that I am going to be in the top tier bracket. It's just a question of where. So I feel pretty good on that. So it's a vast improvement from last season, finishing last and doing the punishment. So definitely feeling a lot better about that right now.
Well, I'd say I've been pretty vocal about your team being consistent, being good. So I think you have a good shot this year. You'll definitely be in the playoffs. There's something astronomical would have to happen for you to get eliminated, but that's not going to happen.
Yep.
You'll make the playoffs. It'll be a matter of if you'll be able to get into the top two. Right now, we got Mike and Cameron in the top two, which they've already won this league, so that's kind of bad for everybody that does not want league reset yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we have 2 more weeks. A lot can happen. So
I'm just going to give you all a phrase that I think will help you all when we're talking about playoffs this year. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Ben Kenobi. I got you, boys. Okay. I'm going to make it happen.
So, and as always, I will not talk about my team until we get to our matchup because we all know how that's going. And yeah, it is what it is. I've accepted my fate. And one could argue that this is a bye week for me because I'm in the bottom 4. There's no escaping it right now. So,
yep.
So Ben, I want to go ahead and let's talk about playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So top 6. I already mentioned we got Mike and Cameron, 1 and number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Mike is 2 games ahead of third place. He's 4 games ahead of 5th and 6th. So really, he would have to lose out, and you and or AJ would have to win out and keep the point differential the same. Because right now you both have more points than Mike. He's just 2 games ahead of you.
Yep.
And we have Cameron, who's only 1 game ahead of both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Both you and AJ both have more points than him. So really, I mean, he could lose 1 game. You both, he just needs to lose 1 game, and you guys win 1 more than he does these next 2 games, and one of you guys get in it.
Yep.
I could really see you and AJ fighting for that second round bye.
Yep. The first round bye.
Yeah.
Looking at it, it really is kind of a toss up. I think that all 3 of those teams, the 2, 3, and 4, they all have they make a good case for why they should get that bye. Mike's team, they have the record on everybody. That definitely helps, and I think that when you take into consideration too schedules, so if you go and look right now, I will remind you that the last 2 games of the regular season, Mike has to get a win over Ryan and Mark, but week 14, I have the potential to kind of decide Mike's fate on that bye, depending on how this plays out, because Mike has to come face me. So I think that could make it a little bit of an interesting kind of matchup. I think AJ's got a really good shot at getting up there because, not knocking on you or Drew, but
you can knock on me, man. It's okay.
AJ kind of has a little bit of an easier schedule once he got to this last 2 weeks, and I could even make the case that Cameron doesn't have as much of a pressure on him either because he's got Drew and then he's got Little Josh. Little Josh is very much fighting to be in the playoffs, but I think we can safely say Little Josh will not get a bye. So
no, I think
Yeah.
I think whenever we're talking buys, it's going to be it's going to come down to the top 4 people right now: Mike, Cameron, AJ, and yourself. Little Josh and Drew, and technically, I guess Andrew and Clark, statistically, they can't get it.
Yep.
So looking at the schedules, looking at the top 4 teams, I think. Well, can I safely assume that you agree with me that some way, shape, or form is going to be Mike, Cameron, you, and AJ in the top 4?
Yep. I think
Okay.
that's almost a lock right now. So, like I said, something really crazy would have to happen, and like we're talking like astronomically bad loss to hurt your points. So
Yeah, well,
something
I,
like
I think
that.
the only one that could bump up into either 3rd or 4th would be uh, Josh. He'd have to win
I
out, and either you or AJ would have to lose out.
Yep.
Because Josh is just as much points as
Yep.
he would need a little bit more to catch up to you guys, but it's within reason. Maybe not
Yeah.
so much AJ, but he's only 30 away from you.
Yep.
Uh,
So yeah,
um,
I think Josh is very much there's a chance. It's just it's not a great chance because again matchups. So
okay, yeah.
yeah.
So who do you think is going to get the first round buys?
First round buys. I'm actually going to stick with who it is right now. I think it's Mike and Cameron. Um, like I said, I'm 2 games back from Mike, and uh, I even if I win out, that puts me 10-4, and if Mike loses both games, which I would have to beat him, then that would put him 10-4. But that doesn't even guarantee anything there because the points for is again, it's really close.
Mm-hmm.
It's roughly 30-point difference, 25, something like that.
He would have to gain you on points this week.
Yep.
And lose.
Yep.
So, I'm gonna say Mike will make it. I do think Cameron's gonna get bumped. I think Cameron's gonna win this week, but I think he's gonna lose to little Josh next week.
Well,
Now that's also me banking that you and AJ win both weeks. I know AJ's gonna win this week, and really, I was looking earlier. I think you're gonna win this week too.
I'm hoping, man. I got little Josh as my matchup, but again, Josh is in a position to where he might not be playing for that first round bye, but Josh is playing right now to be a complete disruptor.
Oh yeah,
So
I mean, and
there's some serious danger with a team like that.
so let's go ahead and talk about the 5th and 6th seed, because really that's a fight between 4 teams right now. We
Yep.
have Josh, Drew, Orscheln, and Clark, all with the same record. I think when the season ends or when the playoffs start, those 4 will be shuffled somewhere in between those 4 rankings that they're in right now.
Mhm.
Who do you think is going to get the 5th and 6th seed?
I think little Josh is clearly the 5. Um, Even if Josh loses, I still think Drew and the rest of these guys are still kind of pushing. Like, yes, I think I can beat Josh. Does that mean, maybe Andrew bumps up this week? Um, I don't know that Drew can really move up because he's facing Cameron and Cameron's kind of hot right now. Like I said, Andrew might bump up because he is playing Steve, but I know that there's buys this week, so that could change up some of this stuff. Um, I guess maybe Clark might because he's playing Taylor, so maybe Clark jumps up. But the other factor here is the points, and
Yeah.
if we're going based on points as a factor too, then little Josh is just so much farther ahead than these guys.
Oh, he is. And honestly, I think Drew is ahead enough on points too that points won't matter. I think if Andrew and Clark are going to get into the top 6, they have to get a win
Yep.
above Josh and Drew. I don't think they'll catch them on points. So
Yep.
it's almost like if Josh, like let's say Josh and Drew wins this week and Andrew and Clark loses, I think playoffs will be locked. I don't think Andrew and Clark would be able to catch up. They gotta hope to win this week, and either Josh or Drew loses.
Yep. Again, you're completely right. They are banking on the record. That's going to be their saving grace. But I think it's worth pointing out too that when we're talking points, little Josh has clearly scored more points than all those other guys.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, you go look at that too, and little Josh has had some of the most points scored against him too.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that his team is really kind of overcoming some adversity to get there. So I'm hoping Josh stays in that running because, like I said, he's had some rough spots, but his team is really grounded out to get back where they are. And I can't I gotta root for the underdog a little bit. I feel like it's nice watching that kind of pull back and Phil Josh been one of my best friends since kindergarten, and I give him a little bit of crap because he's always texting me, "Who should I play, man? Who should I play?" Josh, I want you to know that this week I will be more than happy to tell you who to play. As your adversary this week, I have the best advice. Trust me completely, and best man win.
I've told him to stop asking me because 2 weeks in a row I've told him what to do and he hasn't listened, and I was right. And I think he asked me for advice and I just told him to shut up. I said, don't ask me for advice again if you're not going to listen to it. So,
there's one of those guys in every league. There's always somebody, and Josh has really embraced that.
So something I want to point out, because I think you and I are locked that Josh is going to get fifth. That sixth seed is what's going to be interesting. So right now we have Drew. Like Drew's currently in sixth. So this week he's playing Cameron, and he's hurting right now. I haven't looked at his lineup yet, but he's projected in the 70s. And this is a bad bye week for a lot of teams. Week 14, he plays AJ. So he has some tough matchups. Week 14 was something that's interesting. We have Andrew and Clark playing each other.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them will get a win.
Yep.
At least one win out of these next 2 weeks. So it's very possible Drew could lose these next 2 weeks. And if he does, he's going to get eliminated. Like he won't make it if he loses both weeks. There's a scenario where, I guess technically Josh could lose both weeks but still make it.
Yes.
He'd just get the 6th seed. He still possibly get he could get the 6th seed.
He could get 6.
So knowing that knowledge, who's going to get the 6th seed? Do you think Drew is going to win a game between either Cameron or AJ? Because if the answer is no on those, he's not making the playoffs.
It feels kind of dirty saying it, but again, we're looking at basically strength of schedule. And if we're going off that, then Andrew is going to get the 6th seed because he has the weakest opponents. Because he not a knock on Steve and not a knock on Clark, but when we're talking records and points, Steve and Clark's team are on the bottom half of the schedule and the rosters.
Well,
so
I think Clark has an easier schedule because Clark is playing Taylor and
I
then
know.
Andrew. So I could argue Clark has the easier schedule.
Well, and it really is again that problem too of who shows up. There's there's a lot of things that can factor into this because there's so many injuries out there. There's so many buys out there. So I'm going to say that I think Josh is going to. Maybe that's the hard part here is that you want to base it on who you think has the strongest team, but if we're remembering matchups, then I think Josh actually sneaks in at 6, and I think that I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and say I think Andrew pulls off a win and sneaks in at number 5. Actually, no, wait, no, yeah, because I Josh's team has some really hard matchups. I'll be honest, it would not surprise me if Josh walks away with 2 losses in the next 2 weeks, but I think that he still sneaks in because of those points.
I mean, if Josh loses both weeks,
It
and
really
if Drew
puts a
wins
tough.
just one,
Mm-hmm.
Josh won't make it because Andrew or Clark will at least get one win.
Yep.
So, I don't know, dude. After this week, it's going to be interesting. Just because of the matchup between Clark and Andrew, really, there's no chance for Ryan and Mark
Yep.
or Steve to make it unless they somehow gain on points. Because they would have to win out. Little Josh would have to lose out. So I guess Ryan and Mark, they're 60 points behind. I guess it's possible. But very, very, very unlikely.
Yep.
But so yeah. So you have Andrew making the playoffs.
I do. If I'm really picking based on who I think is the best team and deserves to make it, then I will say that I think it should be Josh and Drew. But because of those schedules, I just don't know that both of them make it because again, they have some tough matchups. Tough matchups, and you know what? Realistically, some people probably deserve to be in the bottom bracket, and they're going to sneak into the top bracket. And then, you know what? Kudos to them because I'll go ahead and handle them very, very quickly so they can forget about fantasy football for the rest of the year. So, looking forward to playing you, Andrew. Looking forward to it.
I don't think he's going to make it. I think Josh will definitely get 5th place. I think Drew has tough matchups. I think he's going to find a way to beat AJ. Or maybe Cameron. Maybe I'm hoping for it. I probably am hoping for it. But it's... I don't know. I could see Drew winning next week. But what I will say is, to make it interesting, if it's not Drew, I think it'll be Clark.
Well, you know what? Mitch, there is a little thought here, which is that, you never want to tank by any means. But I would say that if, I don't know, maybe like my team were to not win the next 2 weeks, that would enable some things. It would enable some people to probably secure their spots at the lower end of that bracket. So
I don't think that would matter too much.
Well, I'm saying if my team doesn't perform this week, little Josh can get that win, which helps him move up. It kind of keep his spot. It's a little security.
Honestly, I don't think that's a good idea for you because
No. I'm not going to, but again, I've said it. There's injuries out there. There's bye weeks out there. If you go look at my roster, you're going to see there's some bye weeks out there affecting my score. So there's a chance that I don't go and hit the waivers because I don't know that I necessarily want to give up some of the guys on my bench right now.
I get you.
So we'll discuss that a little bit more whenever we get into the matchups.
Oh yeah. And then next week's episode would be really interesting too. Bottom four. So, I mean, I think the bottom four was what it's going to be today. I think, yeah, it'd be one of those things somehow, Ryan. Well, I mean, it's possible if Orscheln loses out or if Clark loses out, and either Steve or Ryan and Mark win out, they could bump one of them into the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be another interesting one to talk after this week. We'll have a lot of scenarios. Taylor and I, we're stuck in the bottom four. Our fates are sealed. So we will be in that loser's bracket. I'm not going to lie. I hope Andrew finds his way in the bottom four. And first round of the loser bracket, I give him a first loss, so he has to worry about getting last place. That's my goal. So, but yeah, I mean, do you have any opinions on that? Do you think Ryan and Mark, Steve, Taylor, and myself will be in the bottom four?
I think that you four are guaranteed to be in the bottom four. I just don't see scenarios where you guys get to bump out of that. I think you guys could get some wins and maybe change up the order of those four, maybe. But to really project anything happening to where you jump past 8, I'm not really seeing it. So technically everything's possible. But realistically, I don't think it's plausible. So I think all of you guys are going to be very much fighting for the honor of giving a presentation next year.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the Week 13 matchups. We will start with the most exciting one, myself and AJ. So I did not know in that game that Jonathan Taylor hurt his thumb.
Mm-hmm.
That was news to me. Whenever I saw that, I think that was yesterday. I was like, oh, well, that's not good.
Yeah, but it's not, definitely doesn't help you.
Oh, no, I mean, I told AJ, I'm like, I'm basically not playing a running back. I mean, I am playing a running back, but between the two, I'm barely projected 10 points. Between the two, I'm playing Sanders and Elliott.
Yep.
And on my bench, I have Kelly and Freeman.
Yep. It's, what really hurt you too was the buys.
Yeah, I mean, and I knew I was gonna have a buy this week with Cook whenever I traded for him, but I was like, I could fly somebody else in there. It'll be okay. I'll have Taylor. Nope. But this week, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter if I win or lose. Really, I'm in the bottom four, so that's where I need to win.
I think what does help you is that AJ is just as much affected by buys and, well, I mean, yeah, just the buys in general. He's got Saquon Barkley on a buy. He's got Moore on a buy. He's got Gus Edwards on a buy. So,
he definitely has buys. I mean, I was hoping that this would be a week I could win because of all those buys.
Yeah.
But then I'm without basically players. I gotta hope to get a home run, a touchdown with those if I'm gonna win. I think looking at this matchup, the only thing that I have over AJ is my quarterback.
Yep.
And tight end. That's it.
Yep.
Kicker and defense. Kicker, I got you. Defense, it depends. That's going to be a crazy game with Philly and San Fran. I could see that being a lopsided game, or it could be very, 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 very close. It is supposed to rain again.
Yeah, it could very well be a 6-3 game. Just a sloppy mess. So,
So speaking of that, I need to put in Philly defense because I was actually going to play them this week.
Ooh. Ooh, he's putting in the birds.
Oh, they're playing in Philly. It's rainy. Eagles they're winning in the rain. They get to play in the elements.
They're gonna fly. Eagles fly in the rain.
That's right. Nothing's slowing them down, Ben. But no, this matchup, I have no business winning this week. But if AJ's team does not show up, I could win. I really can't. But I'm not. I'll be surprised if I score 90. But I could see AJ's team scoring 60 or 70 because he does have a lot of people on buys.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit and New Orleans, that should be a really good game.
Yep.
So we'll see. So
yeah, no,
I pick AJ to win.
I also pick AJ, and for all the reasons we just said, I think we pretty much covered that entire matchup to a T. It's just, yeah, like I said, between buys and injuries, neither one of you is really able to put your best foot forward. So it's kind of like you get to that last round of the boxing match, and both guys are just so gassed that they're leaning on each other, punching, and somebody eventually has to give. That's this matchup.
Yep. All right, let's switch over to Porcelain and Steve.
Yeah.
This is an interesting matchup. I'll let you start with this one, Ben.
So, I mean, if we're breaking this down, Andrew's team has started showing some signs of life again. He's managed to pull out a 500 record right now. Trevor Lawrence is still kind of hit or miss. Cooper Kupp is back. Devontae Smith still doing good with the Eagles. DeAndre Swift still looking pretty good with the Eagles. With Andrew's team, I will continue to point to several things, which is it's not a complete team. The running back scenario right now isn't great for him. I don't know that Antonio Gibson is really a solid play, but I don't think he has much other option because Josh Jacobs is on bye. Andrew, here's what cracks me up. Realistically, Andrew has 3 quarterbacks on his roster right now, but really it's 4 because Taysom Hill is on his roster too. So Andrew's bench right now, it's kind of non-existent. So he's just kind of forced to play as it is. I don't really buy Evan Ingram getting 8 points. Again, he's at the mercy of which Trevor Lawrence shows up. Cooper Kupp is always pretty good. You can't count him out. Same for Devontae Smith. And, DeAndre Swift, I have to say that I still think that change of location for him has been really good.
Oh, it really has. I mean, he's surprising a lot of people.
Yep.
I kind of figured he'd do fine in Philadelphia. I wasn't too upset losing Sanders, and then whenever we got Swift, it's like, all right, he'll go in there and do the exact same thing, and he's doing a little bit more.
Yep.
Which best offensive line shouldn't be a problem. So,
yep.
And yeah, he's doing good.
So I think looking at this matchup, I actually do prefer Steve's team because I think Dallas is kind of primed against Seattle to kind of maybe have another big offensive night. Eckler finally gets a matchup against the Patriots. Maybe he gets a little action there. Jaylen Warren's been coming on pretty big. And I will never count out David Montgomery in Detroit. He's another running back who just a change of location meant the world to how he looks. So realistically, I think Steve's team pulls out the win. I'm not going to say it's by a huge margin, but if I were a betting man, which I am, I think it's Steve. I think Steve kind of gets that, and Andrew, again, starts playing that game like, how do I get into the 6th seed? I got to get there. So realistically, record-wise, it's an upset. Looking at who they can play, it's not an upset. Realistically, the better team it's Steve right now. Even if you're talking the bench too. So
Yeah, I would agree. I think Steve's team is better. Record-wise, that doesn't reflect that. Andrew's been finding ways to win games, and that's important. And his team is, to Andrew's credit, his team has been doing better. Last week he had a great week. He beat me. Not that usually that's a hard thing to do, but my team finds ways to lose games even whenever they play well.
yeah.
I think with this matchup, so quarterback, I'm gonna call that a wash. That's gonna be split. Wide receivers, that's tough. I'm gonna call that almost a wash too. Either side could really light it up. Running back, Steve has hands down. I think Warren is actually getting the start this week.
Mm-hmm.
Did I see that right?
I thought so.
Tight ends, I'll give that to Andrew. Maybe he'll get a wombo combo this week with some touchdowns. Kickers, sure. Defenses, gonna give it to Orscheln. That's only because they're playing New England. But I do think Steve's going to win. I do think it comes down to how well Dak does against Seattle, though. Cowboys, Dak Prescott's been playing very well. There's been a lot of news on it. People sore or butt hurt, like, oh, why is he in the MVP discussion? Well, Cowboys haven't beat the team with more than 4 wins this year. They'll actually have a good matchup against Seattle. They are playing at home. That should go in their favor, but let's see. If Dak does what he has been doing past handful of weeks, I think Steve wins this. If Dak underperforms, that's going to be problems, and Andrew can get a win here. But
Yep.
I think Dak's going to show up. He's going to at least get his projected, and Steve will pull out the win this week.
Yep. Wow, it's like we're in agreement on 2 matches. Do you think this lasts throughout all of the matches today?
I don't know. All right, let's do Mike and Ryan and Mark.
Well, you know how they say sometimes you think with your head and sometimes you think with your heart? I'm going to think with my heart. And Ryan and Mark, please do it. Just do it. Just take it to Mike. Take it to him. Take him down. You know, looking at the matchup, I'm going to say what I say every week. Mike's team, really reliant on a stud wide receiver core. You know, you look at the matchup right now, Mike's got some weak spots. He's got a lot of people on buys right now. He's got, he's forced to play Damian Pierce, who is really taking a second, kind of a back seat to Devin Singletary down in Houston. And Houston just really isn't much of a run team right now. Mm-mm. So I don't think that pans out for him. I think, White in Tampa Bay is probably going to get him somewhere between 9 to 12 points. He's pretty consistent for that. So again, Mike, as usual, is completely banking on Tyreek Hill and A.J. Brown. And I think it's worth mentioning that A.J. Brown is going up against San Francisco. That's not a fun matchup for people. It's a tough place to go. So I also remind you that both Tyreek Hill...
They're playing in Philly. They're playing in Philly.
I know. But I'm saying that the other caveat to that too is all the wide receivers on Mike's roster right now, they all have that questionable tag next to them. I'm not saying they're going to miss the game, but it does and should make Mike a little leery about some of this stuff. But more importantly, looking at Ryan and Mark's team, Tua is playing against Washington. That's a pretty friendly matchup right now. Brandon Ayuk may turn out just as much as A.J. Brown does. And, if you're Washington, you have to shut down Tyreek Hill. So what does that do? That potentially leaves Jalen Waddle open. So don't forget the fact Derrick Henry is up against Indianapolis, and if you go check the stats, you'll see Derrick Henry typically has some of his best games against Indy, a division rival. So don't forget about that. Travis Etienne, he's playing against Cincinnati. Cincinnati is such a mess that I don't think they can score. So Etienne may be getting a lot of carries just to kill the clock. So he might be a very good bet to, say that Etienne breaks 100 yards this week.
Yeah.
You got Zach Moss getting action because, well, Mitch's Jonathan Taylor is not going to be playing. And then Travis Kelce, it's a Green Bay. Maybe Kelsey's going to come out and have a big day. So realistically, again, yes, Mike's in first. Mike's team has been playing and pulling out wins like crazy. I'm going to get right at some point, but I hope it's this week. I want Ryan and Mark to pull out that win. Just make it a little bit easier for me to try and get up for that bye, guys. Come on, help me out.
So are you actually picking Ryan and Mark to win?
I am.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to say book it. They're going to win. I think the addition of Zach Moss this week, because, I mean, he could be a starter for a lot of teams, I think.
He should be.
Man, it's just this week. Mike, yeah, I mean, you're living and dying with your wide receivers. You're hurting at running back this week bad. And outside of your wide receivers, Ryan and Mark, they got you beat in every spot. Quarterback, wide receivers are fine. They're not as good as yours, obviously, because you got the best ones in the league, but they'll be fine. Eagles secondary is one of the worst ones in the league, so Ayuk will probably be good for at least one touchdown. Waddle will likely have a big game. Henry, Travis Etienne, Zach Moss, I mean, that's between them, they're going to get 50 points easily.
Mm-hmm.
So, kicker, defense, sure, you call that what it is. So, Mike can definitely win. I mean, he's 10-2 for a reason, but I think this will be one of those weeks where Ryan and Mark, they just blow up because that's what their team can do, and it'll deliver Mike his first loss in what I think is over 7 weeks.
Yep. I think you're right.
It'll make him sweat getting into next week a little bit.
Yep. No, I agree. So I think, yeah, both of us are taking Ryan and Mark. I really hope so, boys. Just keep things interesting. Keep the faith.
Keep the faith. All right, let's go to Drew and Cameron.
Do we have to? That's just how I'm going to start this.
We do. So I could get started on this. I know Drew needs to put in some players. His bench is not much in depth. Cameron is obviously without a kicker at the moment,
as he always is.
It's Drew will probably play Atwell.
I think he will.
Unless he decides to play
Hubbard. He may do Hubbard. You never know, but yeah, I don't know. Because obviously Hopkins has to move up and fill that receiver slot. So that leaves his flex open. So he's got options, but it's still not great, you know?
So it'll be interesting. I know Cameron has some interesting matchups. So I just think Cameron's team's going to do just enough. It'd be one of those things. Purdy, if he puts up a lot of points, which he can against Philly because of that secondary, then yeah. But honestly, my gut, I might be a little biased. I think Eagles, even though they won in the NFC Championship game last year, I think they're out for blood against San Francisco because they got mouthy, made up all these excuses, and they're playing at home, and it's going to be raining. And the Eagles, well, they've been finding ways to win games too.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the Eagles punching them in the mouth. I could see it going the other way too, but I think matchups are going to be big here. I'm going to give it to Cameron. I don't think Christian McCaffrey is going to get his 17 points because you are playing against one of the best run defenses, but McCaffrey's going to get most of his points in the air. I'm going to give it to Cameron, not by much. Drew, I want you to win. I really, really, really do. I think in terms of matchups, Cameron has you. You not having Diggs this week is the key factor for why you're going to lose.
Yep.
Matchups are more in your favor than what Cameron does, or than what Cameron has. Because he has 2 big key buys this week too. But I'll give it to Cameron.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement for pretty much everything that you said. Looking at Drew's team, I'll ask the question, which is Tony Pollard. Which Pollard is going to show up? Because you can pretty much take every game he's played this year, and he's either getting 5 or 6 points or he's getting double digits. It's just almost a guarantee. It's one of those two. It's a 50-50 shot. So I really don't know which one's going to be showing up, and I don't know you can trust that. I guess Kittle could have a pretty decent game considering that Philly's secondary is weak, but I think if anything, the ones who benefit from that more would be Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, because Kittle he really hasn't had that many breakout moments or games this year,
Yeah, you would think. I think Kittle is definitely capable of blowing up against the Eagles. And then, if Purdy and Kittle connect for 2 touchdowns, then Drew can definitely win this week. But I think it's going to be very reliant on how well San Fran does against Philly.
I actually think that the things to watch in this matchup, it's not going to be the Philly and San Francisco game. I think what's actually going to probably play a factor in the winnings is going to be the Dallas-Seattle game. I think actually Ferguson is probably primed for a pretty big night. But more importantly, I think 7.75 points for Miami's defense against Washington is kind of lowballing it. I think it's going to be a double-digit weekend for Miami's defense. So I think that is probably going to be the deciding factor. So to Cameron, I think go the spoils.
Good luck, Drew.
Yes, Drew, we're all counting on you.
All right, let's move over to Taylor and Clark.
I'll go ahead and say this one very quickly. Clark, next. No, really. I'll go ahead and jump in. So, matchup wise, Taylor definitely has the better quarterback. It's not even close. But the wide receivers that he's got Gabe Davis in his flex, and he's on bye. You go look at who he can plug in, and there's nobody. I mean, you can go play Jerry Jeudy, you can go play Elijah Moore, but I would hate playing either one of those, to be honest. You keep what he's banking on these days more than anything would be like a miraculous recovery by Justin Jefferson to finally come back in. But it's not a good matchup for him. Literally on every other thing.
Yeah,
it's like I said, there's just too much going against his team right now, and they've already been a kind of weak team anyway. I think in the long run, Clark just has the better team. I'm not saying Clark's going to have a big breakout game, but do I think Clark's team can put up 90 points? Yeah. Do I think Taylor's team can put up 75? I don't know. That's kind of pushing it, in my opinion. So I think it's Clark.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Taylor, even after he gets his roster fully filled, he's barely going to be breaking 80 points.
Yep.
It's just looking at it. You got Herbert, sure. After that, it's wide receivers with questionable with questionable quarterbacks, running backs. I mean, I think Dylan. I don't know if Aaron Jones is out again this week or not, but if Dylan plays and gets to start, even against KC, that's not an easy matchup.
Yep.
It's just across the board. I think for the most part, Clark has the matchups, except for quarterback, but you got Mayfield against Carolina.
Yep.
So I don't know what version of Carolina we're going to see with them having a different head coach. But I just think Clark will win this. This will be the lowest scoring game of the week, though.
Yep. Completely agree.
So, and with that being said, this game is probably irrelevant whether Clark wins it or not. I think it's going to come down to him and Andrew next week and banking on Drew losing both weeks.
Yep.
So,
I think you're right. God. I'm sorry, boys. It's just such a dumpster fire of a match.
all right, and we're going to end with your matchup, Ben. You and Josh.
I'll go ahead and break this down. So, Josh has the better quarterback. I think I have the better receivers, and this might be the first time in my life I can say that. Realistically, I actually think his running backs will put up more points than mine. I applaud Josh because I saw that he finally went and got a tight end. I alluded to it a while ago. Guys, I'm looking at my bench, and if I'm thinking in terms of playoffs, I don't know that it's worth dropping somebody to go get a tight end for this matchup. I don't know. Yeah, if I got a tight end and then put it in a kicker, I'd be projected much higher. But realistically, when we're talking about my team being consistent, I don't know that it's worth it to me to go and add stuff and risk losing some of these guys on the waiver wires. So there's a decent chance that I might actually start people who are on a bye. That being said, and I don't mean this to hurt you, little Josh, but I think that playing a tight end who is on a bye won't stop me from beating you. So I think it's just enough good matchups to where my team can still sneak out that win without me having to risk losing players in the long run for keeper purposes. Yeah, like I said, I don't know that I want to put some of these guys out there on the waiver wire because I don't want to have to fight to get them back, or more importantly, have to face some of these guys on somebody else's team. So I think I pull out a win, but I think it's going to be a very, very close game because there's a good chance that I play at least one player who's on a bye. So I'm going to say me by like 3 points.
So it sounds like you're at least planning on picking up one player and dropping somebody, and you'll end up probably doing that Sunday morning. Would be my guess.
Yep, I may pull a Cameron. I think.
Well, I will say this, Ben. If you want a chance, but Josh isn't really playing much of a tight end either.
Nope. Well, and that's the other side of the coin is what's really available out there. It's pretty slim pickings. So, realistically, the tight ends out there might contribute another 3 to 5 points. So I don't know it's worth it.
Well, I know, Josh, I'm going to give you one more piece of advice. And you either choose to listen to it or you don't. Bench Metcalf and play Rice this week. Do it.
I was thinking the same thing.
I told him to play Rice last week too, and he did not listen. But he's not gonna listen to me. It's whatever. But it's possible he plays Metcalf. If he puts up not many points, then that might give you an edge. I think, Ben, with me, I mean, you're gonna do whatever you want. If I have a chance to get into the top 2, and if that means I need to drop a player, I would probably look through it and drop a player. If I really want them back, I will throw a bid back at that player.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying that, again, remember what's available out there on the roster. I mean, the waiver wire, too. It's pretty slim pickings on tight ends, which Cameron pulling off a trade with me to where he gave up Jordan Addison to get a tight end. That should tell you how slim it is out there trying to find.
Sure.
So that's really my thought is that, yes, again, I could go get a tight end. I just think that all they're going to do is give me an extra 3 to 5 points. And
that 3 to 5 points could be the difference of your win, though. It's the way I look at it, Ben, because I get the concern.
Yeah.
But its chances are, like, let's say you drop one of those, and let's say you have one of the people in the playoffs, they pick them up, and they have to play them. Well, they are still on your bench, not starters for a reason. So if they're having to play them, that's because they need them. And you'd still have an edge. So
it is true.
I would encourage you to find a way to get a full lineup. Unless for whatever reason Metcalf gets like 40 points, then maybe it's like, you know what? I might just cut my losses and get one more player in there. But once again, you never know. But I think getting a first round bye in the playoffs is massive. Because like what you and I have said plenty of times, at least I have, once the playoffs start, it's a whole new season.
Yep.
And your team could ribcage at the beginning of the playoffs. And it could be that first week it was your bad week. If you would have had that bye week, your team would have blew up and went off from there.
It's true. It's definitely true. So, but I think that you did touch on kind of the other side of it, which is, you know, it's definitely not a decision that I will be making until at least Saturday. So I get time to sit on it and think because, you know, you are right. If he leaves Metcalf in there, it might help sway that decision too. Because if Metcalf does blow up and have a big deal, then yeah, it probably makes it that much more important for me to go lock it down. But, you know, it's tough. It's tough to figure that stuff out. And, you know, I can say that the running backs on my roster are not solid on the bench, but you never know when an injury happens and then you're left stuck with something like that. So,
sure.
I don't know.
So, I guess I still need to break down this matchup. I'm going to actually call the quarterback situation a wash. I think Stroud could easily blow up and have way more points than Mahomes.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever it comes to wide receivers, I do give you the edge. Running backs, I give you the edge. Your flex, Williams is more consistent. Ridley, if he goes off, he goes off.
Well,
your
again,
defense, I'm not a fan of your defense this week against Detroit.
Yep, I agree on that. But again, that's another scenario. It's like, do I just ride out New Orleans because they've got some favorable matchups coming? You never know.
It's one of those things, too. I mean, you got to play that into account. I think, assuming you get your lineup full, I think this is going to be close. I think if you fill your lineup, you win. If you don't, I think you're going to lose. Josh's team can blow up, but I think not having Hawkinson this week is the biggest reason why Josh will lose. But this is going to be a close game. I think this will be the closest game of the week. I'm gonna give it to you, Ben. I think that's because, well, Denver has a good defense.
Yeah.
You know what? You picked yourself. I'm gonna pick Josh.
There you
assuming
go.
he plays Rice. If he doesn't play Rice, he loses. So Josh, play Rice instead of Metcalf. If you do, you win. If you don't, you lose. Fate's in your hands.
I
So
personally hope that Miami is ready to trot back out Achan, and then Josh has to sit there and agonize over which running back to play. That's what I want. I want Josh stressed out trying to figure out who to play.
he's going to be stressed out no matter what, Ben. He
I
doesn't need
know.
any additional stress. Think of the family, what they got to go through with that.
Well, if you're going to make that argument, then we have to always think about Josie and what she has to go through with Andrew every time he loses.
I think I don't think Andrew stresses as much as little Josh does. So, all right, that was into the matchups. So
yeah, we definitely took a long time on this tonight too. I'll say
we
that.
did. We talked a lot about the playoffs, who we thought was going to make the playoffs.
Yep.
So, but I have two more subjects that I want to talk about, and we're going to wrap this up. Aaron Rodgers is practicing.
Yep. I don't know what to say about it. It's you and I kind of chatted a little bit about this earlier, but Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles injury, maybe the quickest miracle healing of this that we've ever seen, and he's literally practicing. I don't know what to say about it. Is it worth it to come back? I don't know, because the Jets I don't think are really serious contenders for anything.
No.
And, I wouldn't tell Aaron Rodgers to rush back, but like I told you all ago, in another league, I have Aaron Rodgers sitting on my bench, and in that league, I lost Joe Burrow. So if Aaron Rodgers does want to come back and play this year and save my team in that league, I'm all for it. So I don't know. It's weird, man.
I want to see it. I want to see him play. I found Aaron Rodgers. So I've been a fan of Aaron Rodgers. I felt like a lot of his best years were wasted in Green Bay because the organization didn't take care of the quarterback, which is frustrating. I mean, I'm sure Andrew, we could bring him on and he could talk about it all the time too. I'm just a big fan of good football. I mean, you know me, I'm a huge Patrick Mahomes fan, and I absolutely despise the Chiefs. I hate the Chiefs.
Yep.
Love Mahomes. It's such a weird. it's so weird.
It is. It's weird.
But Aaron Rodgers, he's starting to be one of those quarterbacks I'm liking more and more. The personality, like it's making more and more sense. It's who he is. I think that's why I'm rooting for him. It's like Tom Brady for years. I hated him. Then whenever we went to Tampa Bay, people were like, knock it off. It's like, oh, dude, at this point, keep going. Like, it's the Brett Favre effect, how Brett Favre's like, no, I'm going to keep playing. No, I'm going to keep playing. So it's kind of getting that like that with Aaron Rodgers, and I just find it phenomenal. Like, if he could actually go in there and play a full game and put up good numbers, if he could do that, holy cow. I mean, what does that say about Aaron Rodgers? And I know there's all these conspiracy theories out there, like, oh, he didn't really tear it. And I don't think that's true. He tore it. There's no way you could just hide something like that. I think on the McAfee show, or whatever it is, whatever show he's always on.
McAfee.
What did I say? McAfee. Did I go antivirus on that? Sorry, I'm always in the tech world in my mind. But on that show, I think I saw he was asked a question like, what do you think about these doctors or people saying that you did not tear it? He said something like along the lines of like, they need to STFU and get out of here because that's not true or something like that. Like, and he was just vocal, like, I don't care. It's like, they're idiots. So I don't know. There's some things to like about him. There's some things where he does need to just shut up. But I think as he's getting older and at this age for him to come back and do it, like let's say even next year if he plays at MVP level, I mean that'd be awesome. So I'm rooting for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I hope that if he does do it, then I really hope that he's careful, he's safe. I don't want to see him get injured again.
Oh no, that'd be awful.
I'm a little leery that Jets' offensive line is very much a hodgepodge.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, would it be a great comeback? Yeah, I would love to see it. Um, but if there's no reason to make that happen, then just focus on continue healing and take the proper steps. And I think that most teams in the NFL wouldn't let somebody come back unless they really knew they were ready. So yeah,
I
that
mean,
my
he
my
cleared practice.
yep.
So
So my hope is, yes, I would love to see him back in action. Uh, like I said, come back and save my other team. Okay.
all right.
Gosh.
Want to transition to our final topic tonight. I wanted to talk to you about this last week, but you weren't here. I'm not going to talk specifically about the Eagles and Chiefs game. However, we'll probably get into that. But do you think we will see an Eagles Chiefs Super Bowl rematch?
As of right now, yes.
Okay.
Yes, because the Chiefs keep finding ways to win. It's not pretty. Um, but that defense has really made a difference.
Oh, it's real.
So,
That defense
yep,
is real.
yep. So I think that helps. And if they can just get some help in terms of the offense getting people open, I really think we are really banking on Rashi Rice right now to keep making the leaps that he's making. He's kind of the number one right now, the way he's playing. And he's still playing like a rookie. He's making mistakes, he's making drops, but he's out there balling, man. He had his first 100-yard game last week. So I think there's something to be said about maybe looking to other weapons because right now it's pretty clear Travis Kelce is just getting double teamed or he's not.
Oh yeah.
He's just not putting up numbers like he normally does. But I think that's because everyone knows that's what you have to shut down because the wide receivers aren't stepping up.
Yeah.
Rashi Rice is. Justin Watson's getting a lot more action than he normally would. And, maybe the Chiefs are kind of holding Kadarius Toney out because they're just banking on using him in the playoffs. I don't know. I really don't know. But the Chiefs, I don't think they're this stellar team that has just been mind-blowingly good. I think that they're a little bit more akin to some of those old Patriots rosters where they just figure out how to win. So that's
Yeah.
what the Chiefs have going for them. I think if you're watching football at all, there is no argument you can make against Philadelphia being the best team in the league. You cannot make that argument. Like, I don't think there's anyone else you can even put on a pedestal right now because that offensive line is so good. DeAndre Swift is really a revitalized career. Jalen Hurts is showing himself to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
You really can't argue that. The tush push, it works. They are literally
Brotherly
starting
shove.
same thing.
And
They are
until other teams can successfully do it, it will be the brotherly shove.
yep. So you look at that and the weapons they have on offense, the wide receivers, that's a deadly duo in AJ Brown and I can't remember his name now.
Smith.
Devontae Smith. So yeah, it's working, and they don't have to have a amazing secondary because their front seven is scary as hell. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like they're daring you to throw the ball. Yeah, go for it. Throw the ball. There's a good chance that your quarterback's going to be on his butt before the ball leaves his hand anyway.
Yep.
So I just think Philly has really figured out some stuff this year. I would go ahead and say that, losing in the Super Bowl, it really pushed them to that level to where they're like, no, this next Super Bowl is ours. We are going. And there's not a thing anyone else can do about it. That's how
I
I view Philly.
love Jalen Hurts' mentality. It's I don't know if you saw, like, after Elliott made that field goal, both him and Kelsey were just shaking their heads like, yeah, we should have had a touchdown there. We shouldn't have to be doing this.
Yep.
I was watching that game, and whenever it came up to that field goal at 59-yarder in the rain, it's like, normal conditions, I give this 50-50. He has the leg. This, 10% chance. And then whenever he kicked it, it's like, just make it. Just make it. Just get there. And it does. It's like, oh, boy. But no, Eagles, they are the best team in the league. Some of their wins are ugly, but they don't panic. They do not panic. That is 2 weeks in a row they came back from double digits at halftime to win games. And some things that some people are forgetting too. Last week we didn't have Lane Johnson. We didn't have that, and we've been without Dallas Goedert for the past couple weeks too. And things were really starting to click middle of the season with him on the roster. So I do think Eagles are the best team in the league. I think another thing that's driving me nuts, I'm hearing all these things, people like, Chiefs are not going to make the Super Bowl. And I'm like, shut up. I'm like, I think it's silly to think that, because who's going to beat them? There's really arguably only two teams right now that could, in my opinion. And I brought this up last week. Jacksonville, because they've been known to do that. And I think if there is a team that's not the Chiefs to make it, would be Jacksonville. Or if the Chiefs have to play a divisional rival like the Broncos, because those games are just different. Broncos are playing better compared to whenever they did before. We know why the Chiefs lost that game. There's a lot of things going against them. Mahomes wasn't healthy, crazy conditions. But Broncos are a better team, playing better now than they were that game. So I think come playoffs, if those two teams play, that'll be an issue. But yeah, I Ravens, Dallas Cowboys are the AFC. Bills are Miami. No. Some people say Miami, and they still haven't beat a worthwhile team. So I still think it's going to be the Chiefs. My original prediction, I think I said Chiefs and Eagles. Eagles are going to win. I'm sticking to it. I'm sticking to that all the way.
Right now, yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I really do. Would I love to watch the Chiefs win another Super Bowl? Of course. But, like I just said, the best team in the league, it is very clearly Philadelphia right now. I don't know how you can argue otherwise.
Chiefs should have went and got Mike Evans, man. They did that, they'd be the best team in the league. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So.
Yep. Wishful thinking.
So. All right. Well, Ben, I think that's all we got for the week. We got a lot of big games this weekend. After next week's episode is going to be pretty big. Getting things hashed out, really depending on how things shake out with these wins and losses to people in the league. Next week's going to be very, very interesting. I'm excited for next week's episode. So,
I agree.
So, as always, if you guys like what you see, like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you all next week. Peace.